drunk pilots, and con men. We gonna get into it. Let's get it. Welcome. First of all, welcome. This is Unsolicited Perspectives. I'm your host, Bruce Anthony, here to lead the conversation in important events and topics that are shaping today's society. Join the conversation or follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for our video podcasts, YouTube exclusive content, and our YouTube membership. Rate, review, like, comment, share. Share with your friends, share with your family, hell, even share with your enemies. On today's episode, we're going to be getting into a Southwest pilot drunk on the job, a con man that unalived themselves, and then I'm going to be telling a funny story from back in the day. But that's enough of the intro. Let's get to the show. You know, sometimes life imitates art and art imitates life. I don't know which one this is. I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. I'm going to assume that real life came first before art. But y'all remember the movie Flight, stars Denzel Washington? There's a meme that goes around where it's a scene in the movie where Denzel is being asked, under oath what was going on. He was like, I'm drunk right now. I was drunk yesterday, I was drunk the day before, and I'm drunk right now. And it was funny because it wasn't a true story, and Denzel played the hell out of that role. And we don't ever think about it. We hop on flights all the time. We don't think about pilots. Well, most of us don't think about pilots. Racist people think about, if the pilot is black or white. But I'm just talking about the normal people out there. Don't ever think about the pilot. Hell, half the time we don't even meet the pilot. We meet the attendants, but not the pilot. Why am I bringing all this up? This story is not new. This story is old. However, the body cam footage was just released recently, and that's the reason why I came across my timeline. And because it came across my timeline, I feel it's my duty to go ahead and tell you all about this really crazy story. So, a Southwest Airlines pilot, Captain David Paul Assop, was arrested in Savannah Hilton Head Airport in Georgia on January 15th of this year, 2025, just before he was scheduled to fly a Chicago-bound flight. The arrest unfolded after a TSA officer noticed that Assop appeared intoxicated and could smell alcohol on his breath as he passed through security. This prompted airport police to intervene and remove, I'm going to just call him the pilot because his last name is crazy. It's Allsop, but that's a mouthful for me because, my speech impairment. So pilot. So the airport police intervened and removed the pilot from the cockpit while passengers were already on board. The pilot was asked when he last had alcohol. He replied it had been about 10 hours and claimed the smell officers noticed might have been from the nicotine gum. However, after performing field sobriety tests on the jet bridge, the pilot failed 2 of the 3 tests. He declined a blood draw to confirm his blood alcohol level and was charged with driving under the influence. Driving? This dude was about to fly, but I assume that he drove to the airport. Or maybe he got drunk at the airport. I don't know. The arrest effectively ended his 19-year career as a pilot with Southwest, stating that he was immediately removed from duty and fired. Southwest Airlines responded that the safety of employees and customers is their top priority. Passengers experienced significant delays as a replacement pilot was found, and the airline apologized for the disruption. Efforts by Southwest employees to take custody of the pilot for their own tests were rejected by police, who emphasized their obligation to process the incident according to state law. Criminal charges against the pilot remain pending as of August 2025. So I don't even know what the Southwest employees were trying to do. They wanted to take custody of him for their own tests, but that was rejected by the police. That's just weird. The police said they was going to follow the law. But this is scary. This man, under the influence, drank so much that as he's passing through security, the TSA agent was like, wait a damn minute, this dude is lit. Now, don't get me wrong. The other day I was around my sister and I, like I frequently do, had a Gatorade bottle with some tequila in it when I'm traveling, right? Like, I'm going here and there and, we're about to go party, pregame. I put it in a Gatorade bottle. Now, will that get me busted? I guess if any cops are listening or watching the show and see me on public transportation, they're going to ask me what's in the bottle. But supposedly from my sister, you can smell what's in the bottle. And it's tequila. Tequila has a very distinct smell and a relatively strong smell. This pilot passed through TSA lit. Was going to fly lit. And I know a lot of you guys are thinking, well, how much does that happen? I'll get into that in a minute. But I just want to talk about the audacity, the absolute audacity to move through the airport, get on the plane while you are lit, and then try to lie to the cops, which I guess I would too, because I know my career is about to be over. Then try to lie to the cops and be like, oh, I drank 10 hours ago. Now, you can drink so much that the next morning you reek of alcohol. It like comes through your pores, like you can smell it. I've had clients and me personally, the next morning you reek of it. That means you had a lot. You had a lot to drink. Even after you shower, you still smell like alcohol. You had a lot to drink. So even that explanation is wild. That's still like, yo, bro, you drank that much, you might still be a little under the influence, even if it was 10 hours ago. Then tried to say it was a nicotine gum. And I'm sorry, nicotine gum don't smell like alcohol to me. Look, but I don't chew nicotine gum. Maybe y'all out here with the nicotine gum chewers could tell me if it smells like alcohol. I know there is sometimes that you can use mouthwash and you'd be like, yo, you been drinking? No, that's my mouthwash, especially Listerine. Listerine, I do believe, is just straight 100% proof vodka. But but honestly, that's just crazy. And what's crazy to me is how often does this happen? Like I said, I was going to give you guys that information, so I'm going to give it to you right now. So, incidents of airline pilots that have been caught with alcohol impairment or under the influence of commercial flights. All right, commercial flights. The Jet Airliner Crash Data Evaluation Center, the JACDEC, the JJJC, what's that? That is from Beverly Hills Cop 3. Reported that that in a typical year in the US, between 11,000 and 13,000 random alcohol tests are conducted on commercial airline pilots, with only about 10 pilots testing positive. This is going all the way back to 2015. Since 1980, out of 12,000 incidents, there were only 11 commercial aviation accidents linked to alcohol abuse. The FAA data showed that the highest number of alcohol violation in the past decade was 23 in 1 year. Pilots are subjected to strict regulations, including blood alcohol content limit of 0.04% and a minimum of 8-hour bottle to throttle rule before flying. Random and unannounced testing, annual physicals, and strict preventive programs keep the intoxicated pilots and commercial incidents extremely low. While alcoholism may be present to some degree, similar to the general population, alcohol impaired piloting is extremely rare and heavily monitored with serious consequences and violations. So basically, this don't happen that often. We fly a ton of planes and very rarely, every year, every day there are hundreds, probably thousands of flights just in the US alone. Very rarely are we getting anything that would say alcohol related incidences and crashes. I don't really ever really hear it. Now, I'm going to keep my ear to the streets to check and make sure that these things aren't really happening. But the numbers say that this doesn't really happen. Now, for some people that are listening to this who are already afraid of flying, this is not going to decrease your fear in flying. Now, this is just an added thing. You already worried about some mechanics of the plane flying off or something going wrong, and then you plummet into your death. Now you got to worry about if the pilot is off that Jim Beam while he's flying the plane. And, you know, I don't condone this. It happens. I don't condone this, what I'm about to say. But there have been times, and I've told the story, me and my sister have told the story of me driving under the influence and having her in the car. It was actually, I can't say it was the last time I was drinking and driving. I really, honest, this is the reason why I don't have a car, right? Because when I go out, I'm drinking. There's no reason for me to have a car and go out, Uber. It's so much better for me because I honestly don't want to go to jail. But in my youth, I did used to drink and drive. And I used to say, well, I'm a better uh, driver under the influence than I am a regular driver because I'm more aware, like I'm more focused, which is complete and utter BS. I wasn't, right? When your senses are dulled, which is what alcohol does, you're not sharper. You're absolutely the opposite of that. So it was just my, I don't know, ego to believe that that was the case. But I'm sure that there are some pilots that are such good pilots that they can fly even under intoxication. And let's be honest, there are a lot of people out there that are driving that have driven, I don't know, thousands of hours, hundreds of thousands of hours collectively over their lifetime, that driving under the influence is not that big of a deal to them, considering, how much they actually had to drink. I wouldn't chance it. But I'm also not a pilot. I couldn't even play flight simulator. I always crashed the plane. I never wanted to try to attempt to be a pilot. I could barely drive a motorcycle. You know what I'm saying? I have crashed more times than I care to mention riding a motorcycle and even a bicycle. So being a pilot has never appealed to me. And I've actually ridden a bicycle intoxicated. Never ridden a motorcycle intoxicated. I have always been entirely too scared to fly over top of that handle, crush my head, become paralyzed. Because y'all all know that that's one of my fears. Let me knock on some wood. I don't want that to happen. But even if there are pilots out there, and I'm speaking specifically to those people who are already automatically afraid of flying, but now this story is just going to make you even more afraid of flying. Ah, relax, relax. Because pilots pilot, just like drivers drive. Are there a lot of drunk driving accidents? Of course there are. Way more than pilots, right? As Superman stated in Superman the movie 1978, statistically speaking, flying is the safest way to travel. I think that is still the case. But I don't think people should be nervous out here about pilots being intoxicated and flying a plane. I just thought this was an interesting story because, quite honestly, I didn't hear anything about it. Like, I'm sure the people in Georgia heard about it um, because it happened in Georgia. Maybe the people in Chicago heard about it, but this happened 8 months ago, and I knew nothing. And the only reason why I know anything now is because the body cam footage became available just recently, and it came across my timeline. And you knew that he was under the influence as soon as he declined to take that blood alcohol test. Now, I have heard some lawyers say you always decline that because they could be faulty. But look, let me tell you something, brother. If you're a pilot and you say you're not going to take an alcohol test, the blood test, uh, not even the blood test, like the breathalyzer, your ass is guilty. Okay. And you might as well just hang it up, try to put your resume out there for something else. Maybe you can do air traffic control because you definitely cannot fly no more planes after you get caught. And let's also say alcoholism is a real disease. I get so many people, and it's really trainers because I'm in that world. And it's so funny to me how trainers act. they say, I don't know why people can't just stop something and do something. And I'm like, well, you can't stop or do something. You have this specific thing about you where you can focus in and eat properly and exercise properly. But it's very hard for people to be disciplined in certain aspects of their life. And then, people have thyroid issues and eating disorders. There's a myriad of different reasons of why somebody might have a challenge in losing weight. And there are definitely reasons why people might have a challenge to not drink, not even talking about just pure alcoholism, because that is absolutely a disease. It is not the will to just quit. If they could just have one drink, they would just have one drink. And I've known many alcoholics that were trying to quit. It is a very, very tough thing to do. But then also people who are not alcoholics, I call them drunks. I could be considered a drunk. These are people who are not dependent on alcohol, but might drink more than the normal depending on what's going on in their life. And I absolutely know when I'm depressed or have high anxiety because I can tell that I'm drinking a lot more. And I'm like, oh, something is going on with me inside. I don't know what it is, but I need to figure it out because that's a telltale sign. So maybe this man was going through something. Maybe he's an alcoholic. Maybe he was going through something. Whatever it was, he definitely was drinking, and what he should have done is called in sick. You know what I'm saying? If something's going on in your life, yeah, maybe it was financial, and he needed to work, but not to risk other people's lives. Because one of the reasons why I decided, aside from the fact that it's the right thing to do, that I decided that I didn't want to drink and drive anymore is because I don't want to be responsible for anybody else's death. If I was in a drink and driving accident and I caused somebody else's death and I lived, it doesn't matter what the punishment is, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. And that's just real. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just thought this was an interesting story. This does happen, not frequently. There's nothing that you need to be afraid of as far as flying and riding in planes. Go take that flight, go to Jamaica, go to Turks and Caicos, go over to Europe. You know what I'm saying? Go visit Japan. Go. It is okay. But also just be aware that pilot, he might have been drinking. But transitioning from drunk Southwest pilots, we're going to talk about something that hits a little closer to home, and that's con men. We're going to get into that next. Life is crazy. Recently, over the last month, I have an Instagram friend. And me and her went on a couple of dates. I'm trying to remember how long ago we both were, like 10 years ago. We're Instagram friends. I haven't seen her in person. She's seen me in person because she's passed by where I lived when my dog was alive and texted me. It was like, hey, I just saw you walking your dog. And I was like, hey, why didn't you stop to say hello? They're like, oh, and I was like, oh, okay, you was with a dude. I was like, okay, I get it. Like, it's cool, but next time stop to say hello. He shouldn't be threatened because we went on a couple of dates a couple of years ago. And the crazy coincidence is I was on their Instagram recently, and come to find out she's really close friends with another woman that I dated. Now, these women I dated several years apart. I want to say at least 3-4 years apart. Randomly know each other. One lives in Virginia, one lives in DC. They literally meet in the middle to take a workout class. And I was like, oh, it's a small world. Then I remember I've lived in DC for almost 30 years and have traveled all the way from Baltimore to Richmond. I've dated women from all over the area. So, of course, they're going to cross paths. The world is small and it's getting smaller, and you never know who you know. But I ended the last segment by saying con men and hitting close to home. And you're like, Bruce, what is you and two women that you dated and them knowing each other randomly have to do with a con man and small world? The point is, the world is small and you never know who you meet, and you never truly know people. So, recently, Friday, August the 8th of this year at 6 a.m., FBI agents raided a high rise apartment complex in Alexandria, Virginia to serve a criminal arrest warrant on a resident. Upon the agent's entry into the 15th floor apartment, the man attempted to flee by jumping off his balcony. He was declared dead at the scene. The incident caused lane closures and heavy law enforcement presence on King Street while the investigation continued. The man has been identified as Sean Stephen Harris. Harris was facing federal wire fraud charges and was indicted for operating an extensive romance fraud scheme between 2019 and 2021. 7 counts of wire fraud were attached to Harris. Harris allegedly defrauded at least 4 women he met through online dating apps between October 2019 and November 2021. He convinced victims to let him use their credit cards with false promises of government reimbursement and extravagant gifts. 1 count of false impersonation of an officer and employee of the United States. Harris claimed to work for federal agencies such as Next. Harris claimed to work for federal agencies such as the CIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and the Treasury Department to lend validity to his schemes and deceive victims. He reportedly used 7 aliases and convinced women he met online to let him use their credit card for purchases which he promised that would be reimbursed as part of government operations. He pretended to work for various agencies and made those false promises, including lavish gifts, pet dogs, student debt relief, and luxury items. Victims included women who lost tens of thousands of dollars after Harris made significant charges to their accounts for electronics, fashion, food delivery, spa services, and OnlyFans subscriptions. Okay, so why am I bringing this up? It just so happens that this incident is less than a block away from where I live. Now, I'm not giving y'all my exact address because y'all be tripping out here, but it's very close to where I live. I walk past this building every day when I go for my evening walks, and used to walk past the building all the time when I would take Crypto for walks when he was alive. Now, I said it hits close to home because it's right down the street from me, and I saw the police presence when it happened. I contacted my contacts in the FBI and in the Alexandria Police Department because Sean jumped off the 15th floor balcony, died, and so there was a death investigation. So the FBI had the criminal charges, came in, and the Alexandria Police Department took over the death investigation. So it was 2 different agencies. So I reached out to my contacts in both agencies, and what they told me was, before the facts came out, what they told me was this was a non-violent crime, but that it was an active investigation, and they couldn't tell me. And I was like, wait a minute, you can't tell me? It can be off the record. It could be off the record. I'm just curious. They said, even off the record, you couldn't tell me. And some of my contacts knew it wasn't going to be off the record. Like, I was going to talk about it on the show. And I kind of understand that. So when the information came out, I contacted my contacts again, my sources. I actually have sources. Remember, y'all, I went to journalism school. I'm a semi-journalist, to get the full story. Now, they don't have any pictures of this man online, just a name. And I was curious to know if I knew the person, because I walk past that building all the time. I have clients that live in that building. I know people that live in that building. So I was curious to find out exactly who it was, because there's no pictures online. So through my contacts, I found out who he was. And not only does it hit close to home because, like, I've been in that building, I don't live far away from it, I walk past it every day. I knew the person. I personally knew the person. I knew Sean. I spoke to Sean 2, 3 times a week. That put a whole new perspective on everything. I'm gonna get a little personal. I don't think I'm gonna get emotional because I don't think I'm affected emotionally by it. It wasn't like this was one of my friends, one of my boys. It was a person that I knew that I talked to fairly often. Like a lot of people that live in this area that I see, especially people that were dog people, I'd always sit down and talk to people. And I'm friendly, kind, nice, whatever you want to call it, person. So yeah, I talked to people. So I knew Sean. Let me tell you about what I knew about Sean. This is gonna sound weird. Uh, he always smelled good. I mean, he always had cologne on. Just he presented himself as, a person that, you know, had a little bit of cheddar cheese, right? Not the most fit person. We talked about him hiring me as his personal trainer because he was on the heavy side, but he had a smooth kind of suaveness about him. It does not surprise me um, that he just swindled some women out of money because he kind of had that je ne sais quoi, as we would say, that smoothness about him. Um, when the thing that strikes me the most, because it's an interesting story, there are parts of it that I find funny that I will not get into um, because I can find humor in everything. It's dark humor, but I can find humor in everything. It's an interesting story. It's a wild story. The It's a heartbreaking story in this aspect. I knew Sean, and one of the reasons why I often saw Sean is because he was pushing his stroller with his daughter. His daughter was a beautiful baby girl. Had just the most beautiful eyes. I would say to him all the time, man, hey, look, you're gonna have to get your fight game ready because them dudes gonna be after her because she is gorgeous. Gorgeous little girl. And he was a proud, proud papa. I mean, every time I saw her, I barely saw the mom. We'll get into that in a minute. I barely saw the mom. I did meet the mom. I know the mom. Don't know the mom's name, but I know the mom. I know that they were together. And beautiful baby girl. And that's the heartbreaking point. The heartbreaking point is when I talk to my sources, uh, the FBI sources said, and I'm not, the sources weren't there, the arresting officers, but it's going around, said that this was not the outcome that they were expecting. They did not think that this man would run and jump off the balcony to unalive himself. I mean, the charges are serious, but not so serious, right? Like he could get 15 to 20 years, time served. Federal charges are always different. You don't serve 100% of your time. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but he would have been out either while his daughter was in high school, maybe if he got lucky before she entered high school, but definitely before she graduated high school. Like he would have been out and he would have had a whole nother life. I also know that I'm older than Sean. Um, Sean was a younger man. So even if he did 20 years, he could still have 30, 35, 40 years after that to live. And yes, nobody wants to go to federal prison. Prison sucks, y'all. I told y'all how much I don't want to go. And I've also joked, somewhat serious, but still joking about what are some reasons that I would give up life. I always talk about amputations or losing an eyeball. That's tongue in cheek, right? But even when I'm being tongue in cheek, I always say, hey, look, little one, if I had a little one, the whole ball game changes. Everything changes. So that's the sad part. The wild part is I think he stopped once he had his daughter. He did this for a short period of time. So far, what they know, right? There could be more victims, but and there might be more victims that come forward because this story has, at least locally, taken us by storm. But for the actual charges, it was a short period of time. It was 2 years. It wasn't even a full 2 years. It was 2 years, right? And I know for a fact he had his daughter after 2021 or around 2021 because she was like might be 3 years old. Like she's still being pushed around in a stroller. Um, so he stopped or somewhat stopped. I also found out through sources that the man that I thought I knew, not just from this story, but the man that I thought I knew, I didn't know. Let me give you a prime example. I was talking to him maybe a year ago. We were rapping, just out there, just chit chatting, just talking. And he was like, "Yeah, wifey gonna have me go ahead and we moving." I was like, "Oh, you moving from the area?" He was like, "No, we moving in the building. Wifey needs a bigger place, so we moving into the penthouse." I was like, "Oh, where? You moving into the penthouse?" Now he had also told me that he was a Georgetown graduate. And I gotta be real honest. I believed it, but now in retrospect, when all of these charges come out, I absolutely believe these charges because he did not live in the penthouse. I found that through sources that he did not live in the penthouse. He lived in a nice place, but not the penthouse. And I'm not so sure that he went to Georgetown. And there's another aspect of me knowing him that you'll say to yourself, "Well, Bruce, you do the same thing." And you're right. He was always around in the middle part of the day. Like, what did he do for work? I don't know. Right? Like, I never really asked that because that's such a common question in this area. People always ask in the DC area, "Where'd you go to school? What do you do?" And it's not in that order. And so I never, I make it a point not to really ask. People will bring it up regardless, but he never did. He never did. So he went to Georgetown. I think he told me he worked in the government somehow. And I was like, "Oh, okay, you could do remote work." But they ended remote work for a lot of government workers. Like a lot of my friends that work in the government who was doing remote work all during the pandemic, their ass is back in the office, whether they wanted to be or not. They are. There's some people that got hybrid, but majority in the office and not doing remote. And I still saw him. I'm trying to think of the last time I ran into him. Obviously, it was before Friday the 8th. That's a poor statement, but it obviously it was before that. It was this month. I know it was this month. And I don't know that I had a conversation with them. We probably saw each other from a distance and gave each other a head nod and our fist up because that's what we would routinely do. When we were close to each other, we would strike up a conversation. But I knew this person. I knew this person. So when I said, I brought all that stuff up about women I dated and everything, and I said the comment, the close to home, that's what's close to home. What's close to home is that I knew this person. And the reason why I wanted to come on here and talk about it is because there's a lot of disinformation out there that I'm getting ready to go through, and a lot of nasty ass comments about him. Let me just say, whether it was his wife, his girlfriend, he's got a baby mom and he's got a daughter. Shut the hell up. Because a lot of you people out there don't know what you're talking about, especially on social media, right? The comments that's being made. Y'all people are stupid. I say it all the time. We were separated in school. We need to be separated in society because the stupidity that's out there and the microphone that you stupid people have infuriates me. It does. I don't come on this show and say anything before having it in thought and doing research. If I don't know something, I don't ever speak on it. I may do a tongue-in-cheek comment, but even in that tongue-in-cheek comment, I say, but I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm just making a joke. Y'all out here are not making a joke. Y'all are out here acting like y'all actually did the work like I did and actually talked to people who do know and did the research, semi-investigating to find out the truth. I'm going to give you the truth. Stop making up stories. I know of one person who lives in that building who said, yeah, the FBI threw him off the balcony because he was a part of the Epstein files. I said, I know for a fact, before the facts of the case came out, I knew for a fact that that was not part of anything that he was associated with, Sean was associated with. Not because I knew him, but because of my sources. And I told this person that's not true. He was like, that is true. I said, where's your evidence and your sources? Oh, okay, so you're out here just making outlandish statements and you don't know what you're talking about. Well, I'm going to just keep saying it. And you're going to be known as the dumb person. You're going to be known as the building kook because you're specifically and knowingly putting out misinformation. And why? To get some attention? Because people are going to come to you because they think you know? What are you going to do when they actually find out the truth? It was all a cover up. That's what I'm going to tell them. You know what? I'm done having a conversation with you because you didn't piss me off. So here was the sequence of events. When the FBI agents executed the arrest warrant, Harris jumped from his 15th floor balcony rather than being taken into custody. That's the truth, okay? Officers attempted life-saving measures, but Harris was pronounced dead on the scene. That's kind of what happens when you jump from 15 stories down. After his death, the indictment and federal charges against Harris was dismissed. I saw a lot of people online talking about how you going to have charges against a dead person. That's stupid. They just dropped the charges. Of course, what they going to do? Keep charging a dead person? Yeah, y'all are dumb, okay? Because under US law, criminal proceedings against a defendant cannot continue once they are deceased. When a person dies, courts and prosecutors are required to dismiss ongoing indictments or charges as there is no longer a defendant to prosecute or sentence. This is a standard legal procedure and applies regardless of the seriousness of the allegations or what stage of the case it's in. So, yes, the feds had to say they've dismissed the charges because that's just standard legal procedure. Also, people that were not Alexandria police and FBI agents had to watch the videotape because there were cameras pointing in that building. There are cameras where you could see him unalive himself off the balcony. There were witnesses that needed to see the tape so that the feds wouldn't have liability, which would make sense because I don't believe feds have body cams like police officers do. So if Alexandria police was serving the warrant, they would have had body cams that would have showed what happened. I don't believe the feds have that. I don't think they film recordings. I could be wrong. I need to talk to some feds that serve non-violent warrants because once again, this was a non-violent offense warrant. Also was not a no-knock warrant, but there was videotape. So certain people had to be witnesses and see the videotape. There is also a videotape from a resident that lives close that saw the entire incident and posted that online. Let me just say how distasteful that is and sickening that is for somebody to do that for clout. Just like that person who wanted to say it was Epstein files, it's for clout. It's for attention. And, being in this content space, I've seen firsthand what people will do for attention. It's disgusting. What this person did by filming it and posting it online was disgusting. Nothing good could ever come from that. And once again, there is a woman who was involved with this man and a young child that was the daughter of this man. So irregardless of what he did, and not putting any not acknowledging the victims, because there are real life victims in this scenario, people that he hurt, that he stole money on, and we must never forget them. There are also victims of people that knew him, that loved him, that are now dealing with the pain of finding out who he was and what he decided to do. Some other things that need to be said: Harris was never a federal employee, despite his claims to the victims. Um, and so it bothers me when people put out disinformation, wrong information, knowingly wrong information, and they do it to gain attention. I'm a historian, first and foremost. I like finding out the truth. I'm a journalist somewhat, because that was my original major. That's originally what I wanted to do. And so when I'm reporting something, I like to research it. I like to get the facts straight. I like to talk to people, get their truth and their opinion. And getting some people's opinion, this affected a lot of people that live in that building and live around the building that personally knew him. This was a shock. It was a shock to me. Did not think that he was this person. Just knew him as the good smelling dude that was a very, very loving father. And so, like I said, this story is wild, it's crazy, and it's heartbreaking. There are nothing but victims all around. And it's funny how you don't know people. You don't really know people. It could be the person that you speak to 3 times a week that is a straight up con man, and that's con people out of thousands of dollars. It's a small world. On that note, I'm going to brighten up the mood a little bit in the next segment as I tell a story that's embarrassing to me. And we're going to get into that next. Okay, story time. We've been talking about some stuff that's been a little depressing. So let me tell you a story that should be embarrassing for me, but I don't know. I don't really get that embarrassed. It's about high school and early college years hijinks with 2 of my friends that will remain nameless, but they are my brothers, and we did a lot of dumb-ish back in the day. And this was a story of something dumb that we did that I will never let my friend live down, because he showed his true colors. Let me give you guys a backstory. So me and my 2 idiot friends are in, I don't know, high school, or we're in early years of college. We might be 21, but I don't think we are. We're like late teens, 20, maybe 21. And what we would do is we would go out at night, get drunk, do dumb stuff like kick down mailboxes and egg houses. That was what we did in high school. Nope, we did it in the early years of college too. We were 3 idiots. I just think about it now. 3 idiots. And then afterwards, it'd be a late night and we would go to Denny's. Denny's wasn't that far from all of our houses. We would go to Denny's and eat some food and then go home. That's just what we did. A lot of times, a lot is exaggerating. More than a little bit. There were times we went to Denny's with absolutely no money. So what did that mean? Dine and dash. Yes, I'm not proud of it, especially somebody who later went on to be in the restaurant industry. Dine and dashing is not a cool thing to do, but we were suburban rebels by this point. What I mean by that is we're breaking the law, but we're not breaking the law. We're doing hijinks. And I know now, this doesn't excuse what we did, but I know now the restaurant kind of builds in for that type of stuff. There's a part of the budget that's called spillage, because no matter what you do, you're going to waste food by burning it, dropping it, people walking out of their bills, people not liking the food that you prepare for them, alcohol spillage, the whole nine. So that's built into the prices of what you buy when you go to a restaurant. So if the prices are high, it could be the tariffs and things of that nature. It could also be that this restaurant has a high spillage rate. We didn't know this at the time. We're just heathens that are going into Denny's with no money, ordering food. And of course, I always ordered the chicken finger platter, not just the chicken finger dinner, the platter, because I need to get the chicken fingers, the French fries, and the coleslaw. I forgot what my friends got. Maybe they got the same thing, because we were all, in the words of my best friend, some chicken finger eating bitches. But so we would get the food, and we didn't do it that often because they didn't recognize us for doing this. So I would say in a given year, we might go to Denny's, I don't know, 10 times, and we would dine and dash maybe twice. So not something that they would recognize, not something that we did every week, right? But there was always a plan. This one particular night that we were planning to do dine and dash, there was more than three of us. There was like 5 or 6 of us. So we needed to come up with a plan in order to dine and dash. So right across the street from the Denny's was a hotel. So there's this huge parking lot that both the Denny's and the hotel share. One night I got busted by the cops in that hotel. Maybe that'll be a story that I tell in a future episode. But it's all one big parking lot. And of course, we park in that parking lot every time we go to Denny's. So the plan was to dine and dash is that we would slowly, one by one, act like we were going to the bathroom, because the bathroom was right close to the doors. One by one, we would leave until there was one person left that would just walk right out the door, right? We walk right out the door. If they chased us out to the parking lot, we would scatter until they got tired of looking for us, and then we would eventually rendezvous at the car and take off. It was a whole plan, and it was a strategic. I came up with the plan. I was the one that came up with the plan, okay? And it was a strategic, like, laddering of people leaving before it was one person left. And originally, I was supposed to be that last person. This is where the plan failed, because I get nervous. I don't want to be the last person. And so I skip out. I'm like person 3 or 4. It just so happens that one of my good friends is the last person. He doesn't follow the rules to dine and dash, right? Like, he does not follow the plan. We all did. So it's not completely his fault. What he did afterwards is 100% his fault. So as we are in the parking lot, we have all exit except for my final friend, who should not have been the final one to do it. It should have been me, but I punked out and went early, and we left him in the lurch to do it. We're in the parking lot waiting. As he's exiting the doors, the server is chasing out after him, saying, "You guys need to pay for your bill." So we're all in the parking lot, hiding behind cars, spread out, 4 or 5 of us, spread out, right? And we're yelling out, "Run, run, run, get away, run." And our friend did run. He ran directly to his car. He was the one that drove that night. He ran directly to his car. And then the server said, "I saw you run to your car. We have your license plate. Y'all need to come back and pay your bill." And our friend yells out, "Come on, guys, they got us." and, and one of our friends said, "You idiot, why would you run to your car?" And I yell out, "They don't have us, they got you, because you ran to your car." And it's at least 2 or 3 times a year in the group chat. I send in the group chat, "Hey guys, they got us," because they didn't have us. We got away. We got away. He didn't get away. And he didn't get away because he ran directly to his car. And 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 he didn't think that they would see his license plate number. Why would he run directly? We weren't in the car. He knew part of the plan was for us to disperse throughout the parking lot and we would come back to the car. Only one person needed to come back to the car, and it was going to be him. And he could pick us up along the way. We could have gone down a block or something. We could have got away and not had to pay for the chicken tenders. But no, he runs directly to his car. Then, when the service says, "Hey, I've got your license plate," he yells out, "Hey guys, they got us." We were pissed. We were pissed because why would you run directly to your car? Why would you do that? And then why would you say, "Hey guys, they got us"? And of course, me being the jerk that I was back in the day, I said, "No, they don't have us. They got you." That's what they got. They got you because we all got away. Now, once again, I don't blame my friend for panicking because we knew that he was not a person that could lie or steal. That just wasn't in his MO. That was me and my other friends. We really talked him up for this. He's a goody two shoes. Say, guys, why don't we just pay for our bill? He never wanted to participate in these hijinks that me and our other friend was always leading the charge. Me and the other friend in this triplet group is always about nonsense. We are still about nonsense, not that type of nonsense. I'm gonna pay my bill. I'm not walking out of the bill. But we're just always about nonsense. And he has never been about nonsense. He has always been about doing good and straight and narrow and not breaking the rules. And he shouldn't have been the last one. He wasn't planned to be the last one. He was planned to be the first one. And it just so happened people started breaking protocol. And then, yes, I broke protocol too. And he was the last one standing. And then he ratted us out. And I said, "Hey, man, I'm never going to commit crimes with you because I know you're going to give us all up. Because you know what? Hey, guys, they got us." And we still don't let him live it down. I think I threw that in his face probably like 2 or 3 months ago. I know I did. And that was easily something over 25 years ago that happened. We have never let him live it down. And we never will because he said, "Hey, guys, they got us." And I don't know what he was thinking in his mind, thinking that they got us. No, they got you. And I let him know that night. And I let him know every chance I get over the last 25 plus years that they got you, you snitch. But once again, I can't blame it. It's not all his fault. The plan was faulty. We shouldn't have been doing it in the first place. We ended up paying for people that didn't have money. They owed other people money. And I don't think that we ever did it again. Nope. Yep, me and my other idiot friend definitely did it again. And this time, the cops had us and said, "Hey, pull over." And we didn't pull over. We took off. And nothing came from that. But me and my idiot friends did a lot of shenanigans. Yeah, we definitely did a lot of shenanigans. And I think some of that is healthy as long as you don't hurt people. To get that stuff out of your system when you're young. Look, people going for our parents out there that are listening to this story and saying, "Bruce, you're crazy." Your kids are going to do these things. You did these things. Maybe not dine and dash, but you broke the law. You were drinking underage, going to parties, doing stuff. Maybe you were sneaking out, breaking curfew. Like kids are going to do these things. I think as a parent, and what my parents stressed upon us is like, "Hey, you got to always be safe and protect other people." We didn't always listen, but that was always in the back of our minds. And I think my parents did a good job of raising us. I think my friends' parents did a good job of raising us. We were just in the hijinks. And like I said, we never committed no serious crimes. We wasn't out there in the streets slanging crack cocaine to the community, shooting up the block or nothing like that. All we did was juvenile stuff, well past juvenile age, juvenile stuff, drank beers, drank vodka, and want to talk to women. That's all we did. It was a fun young adult life. And that server got their money. I don't know if they got a tip because I don't think we knew about tipping at that time. That's also another thing. Parents, teach your kids about tipping. Teach your kids about tipping and how to treat people in the service industry. We did not get that form of information. I didn't learn until I was in the restaurant business how you are supposed to treat people in the restaurant business. But Dine-and-Dash, that's what we did. And hey guys, they caught us. They did. They did catch us because you ran straight to the car, dumbass. Straight to the car. God. Anyway, that's a story from back in the day. Little something to bring up the mood, considering the fact that we dealt with some heavy subjects. I scared you guys a little bit in the first segment. Don't be scared. It's a rare occurrence. There's not a lot of drunk pilots out there, so you don't have to be worried about that. Broke your heart in the second segment. Hey, look, ladies and gentlemen, be wary of when things are too good to be true. Like, you don't get something for nothing. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You had to do something. Person punch you in the mouth. That's Eddie Murphy stand up. But if you're promised really great things with minimal effort, odds are it's not true. And also, don't be a scammer. Like, just don't do it, right? And then also, don't dine and dash. Even if you are with your idiot friends and there's hijinks, somebody's livelihood is on the line, because I do know that some restaurants make those servers and bartenders pay for those people that dine and dash. So do not do that. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, over 250 episodes, y'all showed out and watched and listened to the 250th episode. Look, I am humbled and grateful and thankful that you guys are rocking with us and the audience is growing more and more. We are going to keep pushing out this content, and hopefully you guys keep on enjoying it. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for watching. And until next time, as always, I'll holla. Woo, that was a hell of a show. Thank you for rocking with us here on Unsolicited Perspectives with Bruce Anthony. Now, before you go, don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, comment, and share our podcast wherever you're listening or watching it to it. Pass it along to your friends. If you enjoy it, that means the people that you rock will enjoy it also. So share the wealth, share the knowledge, share the noise. And for all those people that say, well, I don't have a YouTube. If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can actually watch our video podcast and YouTube exclusive content. But the real party is on our Patreon page, After Hours Uncensored and Talking Straight-ish. After Hours Uncensored is another show with my sister. And once again, the key word there is uncensored. Those are exclusively on our Patreon page. Jump onto our website at unsolicitedperspective.com for all things us. That's where you can get all of our audio, video, our blogs, and even buy our merch. And if you really feel generous and want to help us out, you can donate on our donations page. Donations go strictly to improving our software and hardware so we can keep giving you guys good content that you can clearly listen to and that you can clearly see. So any donation would be appreciative. Most importantly, I want to say thank you for listening and watching and supporting us. And I'll catch you next time. Audi 5000. Peace.